Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis, and I am your host. This is a special Hispanic Heritage Month edition. So welcome to another episode. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Hispanic Heritage Month. It takes place from September 15th to October 15th every year as a time to recognize and celebrate the many contributions, culture, and extensive histories of the American Latino community. It first began as Hispanic Heritage Week in 1968 and later on became Hispanic Heritage Month in 1988. Since then, the month has been celebrated nationwide through festivals, art shows, conferences, community gatherings, and much more. Now, the reason it starts September 15th is because it celebrates the independence days of several Latin American countries, including Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua on September 15th, and Mexico and Chile on September 16th and 18th, respectively. It also includes holidays that recognize Hispanic contributions, such as the Virgin Islands Puerto Rico Friendship Day, which is celebrated in the U.S. Virgin Islands the second Monday in October. For this month, I'd like to highlight individuals who have made a great contributions in their chosen profession and the community at large. So now I'd like to introduce you today to our very special guest, our returning champion, Miri Rodriguez. Welcome, Miri.
Oh, Luis, it's such a great honor to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be back. Thanks.
Thank you. And a little fun fact, actually, you are the first returning guest after like 140 something episodes.
Wow. Well, good. I'm so happy to know that. That's great. If I'm returning, it means it's good stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
So thank you very much for that. I'm honored to have you here. I know you live on the road a lot, so I'm honored that you get to take some time out and share with our audience.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I love what you do and I love the audience that you drive. So hello to everyone listening.
Thank you very much. And also, the first episode with Miri was episode 105. It was during a Women's History Month, actually. So definitely be sure to check it out to learn a little bit more about Miri's trajectory. But I would like, if you don't mind, sharing just a little bit about your personal background and upbringing.
Absolutely. So happy Hispanic Heritage Month to all in the Hispanic community. I come from Venezuela, born and raised there. So I had a beautiful childhood. Came to the States in my adolescent years. My parents were missionaries, so the missions brought them here, and we stayed. And as you know, built my family here, my life in Miami and close to Miami. Went to school here. And got into tech. I was not planning to get into tech, but I went into a comms major, and opportunities came in the tech field. And so I've been doing tech for a while. And recently, well, not recently, for the last 11 years, I've been at Microsoft, of course, in the tech industry, doing very niche work around storytelling, which, you don't go to school for that, right? And you don't go like, hey, I want to become a storyteller. But times changed. Social media was born, digital media was born, and new jobs like storytelling came out. And so I was one of those lucky enough to become a storyteller for a tech company, and I love every minute of it. And aside from that, I also own a wellness company called Be Mindful, Be Happy. And that's part of my personal trajectory as well, which I think I talked a little bit about in the beginning, the first podcast. And so my own wellness, story. And for me, it all comes together under big umbrellas. So I think we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you very much. I was fascinated by the fact that you wanted to be a pilot in the Air Force, basically, right?
Yeah, so being Hispanic, when I came to the States, I was like, wow, anything is possible. And I really did. I intended it. I went to school. I was in ESOL classes my first semester of my freshman year because I didn't speak English. But I had a teacher, I begged him, and he actually was so helpful. I had him change my schedule so I can take elective courses. Because when you're in ESOL classes, you can't take elective because the electives are the English speaking courses that you have to learn. Anyway, so my teacher just changed my courses and allowed me to pick up the electives that I wanted, which was Air Force ROTC. So I did 4 years of junior ROTC and actually became the first female corps commander. And I got scholarships to go out and, be a pilot. So I was well on my way.
Wow.
I could read
That's
instruments.
amazing.
Yeah, it was like I could technically fly a plane. I did a lot of internships and such, so that was fun.
Wow, that's impressive. That's awesome. I did the ESO classes myself because when I came from the Dominican Republic at age 11, I didn't know English.
Right.
And I remember you saying how you eventually tested out, right, of that. And
Did.
that felt like such a big accomplishment for me. I ended up doing that like sophomore year in high school, like finally be able to take all English classes. And I was like, yes.
You feel good, you feel like, okay, I'm making waves here. It was interesting because I really thought I was going to become this. I would train. I was part of the Rifle Club, the Kitty Hawk Air Society. I did everything. And, but when I graduated and I was well on my way, being part of that very Hispanic culture, my dad, very strict, 3 daughters. He was like, yeah, you don't go away to college to Colorado Springs. That's not happening. You're not American. And I was like, okay. So I ended up actually, taking another local scholarship and doing comms. And I was like, hey, what will come out of comms? Well, here we are.
There you go. Right. Yeah. It's amazing how one thing leads to another. So tell me about the origin story behind brand storytelling. This is the second edition, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. So the origin story is really a story of massive catastrophic failure at Microsoft. I was asked to come at the time that Satya Nadella, our current CEO, came on board about 7 years ago. He really intended to change the culture, and so he did. I mean, clearly we know that today. But one of the ways that he was thinking about changing culture internally and outside to our customers was to really tell the stories of what we were doing at Microsoft internally. And that was something new because Microsoft as a company, doesn't do that. They didn't do that before. So it was a very open source. What is happening at Microsoft? It was always kind of an enigma. We don't know what they're doing inside. Who gets hired there, And now we were telling stories of these very engineers who were taking our data from on-premises to the cloud. They were becoming cloud engineers. And we wanted to document that. So they asked me and 2 other people to come out to the engineering part of the organization and tell those stories of digital transformation. So I was like, yeah, I can, I'm a comms major, I'm a marketing major. I can do this, right? It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be hard. And then I was like, oh no, it's really hard. And I told my husband, I was like, I think we don't need to unpack. I think they're going to send me back to Miami quickly. It's a story of failure because I didn't know truly what storytelling was. I don't think anybody knew. I think we knew conceptually that, okay, stories work, but how and strategically, what is that methodology and how do we systemically create this, this end-to-end strategy? I didn't have that. I didn't know it. Nobody knew it. And so for the first 3 months, it was really hard. And I was finishing my master's in communications and marketing, and my capstone project became that. I was like, okay, I'm going to make this. I'm going to solve this. I'm going to solve this. And so I used design thinking principles, and it worked. And it worked so well that it was successful internally. Then people started asking me, and before you know it, I'm writing a book. I'm consulting with brands and going all over the world talking about this methodology. And I was like, how did this even happen? It was a hunger that people were having about, yes, I understand stories conceptually. How do I activate this in my space and for my clients, for my audiences? So yeah, that's it. Massive failure turns into a book.
I love it. That's amazing. And now a second book.
Yeah, and now it's a second book. Exactly. Now it's like they were like, okay, we love it, Miri. The book did really well, and they're like, well, we need a workbook. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So then I introduced the workbook in the second edition, and also added some new perspective. Of course, coming out of my book came out in March 2020, so we know, what a date that was. And so coming out of the global pandemic and into the AI era, there are a lot of nuances in between. So I was able to just, add a little bit of that, modernize the content to really share where we are today and what we need to do going forward.
Yeah, definitely want to talk a little bit about that. One thing I wanted to ask you too was you do a lot of public speaking.
Yeah.
How did that come natural to you, or how was that?
No. And I was very conscious about my accent and the fact that I speak fast. So I will also apologize to all of you listening right now because you're like, oh, she speaks so fast. I actually learned, someone told me later, I really tried to pace myself, and I have worked on that, I promise. But someone came to me and said, are you speaking fast on purpose so that we can lean in and listen more and almost feel like, like I'm not missing out on anything? I was like, no, but good point. Maybe I just, okay. So it's actually psychology. No, my parents, I mentioned they're both missionaries and great storytellers in their own space. And so I was extremely intimidated by being on stage. They were always on stage, and they were really good. And I was like, never. This is not something that for me. Speaking to audiences is a thing. And what's interesting is that I came into the tech field, and so tech people are, cruel. They can be very opinionated. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I can't, it's not just a stage, it's the stage for engineers, and devs and a very critical audience. And so as I started to come into that space more and more and became more confident, because I was like, listen, if they don't kick me out, if they don't throw tomatoes, I think I'm going to be okay. You know what I mean? So they didn't. And so here I am. It wasn't anything. Actually, writing the book wasn't a dream of mine. Being on stage was not a dream of mine. I think this all happened because when you have something to give to the world, the platform becomes yours, and it's just given. And so you do it. But it wasn't a thing for me. I wasn't thinking, oh, let me go speak and let me write a book. It just became. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know that, I've done some public speaking myself. Yeah. And I feel like no matter what, I feel like even Tony Robbins still feels nervous on stage.
Yeah, it's not easy. People are, all eyes on you, and we're judging each other, right? We're like, what is this person? Especially because our time is our commodity today. Why would I be listening to this podcast right now when I could be doing something else? Why would I be listening to Miri Rodriguez or Lewis? So it's a question that we ask ourselves: what can they give me? What can I learn today? And if nothing, I've wasted time that will never go back. So I actually do intend every single time that I'm on stage, when I'm delivering a speech, that I'm in a podcast, I want people to feel like they walked out of this experience with something new and something that they can take practically with them. So it's not just, oh, that was great, I feel inspired, but I don't know what to do with that inspiration. It's like, oh, I'm inspired and I'm going to go do, because I have the practical steps to do that. So for me, leveraging the platform is important, especially as a Latina woman. You don't get a lot of those in tech, we represent less than 1% of the industry. I know it's crazy to say that in 2023, but it's true. So I don't take it lightly. And I understand the honor and the responsibility. And, I come in with all of my passion and all of my knowledge.
No, I love it. Yeah, my industry, financial planning and investing, it's same thing. When I was looking at the statistics from the CFP board, it was 2.9% of all CFP certificates identify as Latino or Hispanic. It's a very small number, and women even less.
Yeah, you add in personality, and then you get less of a percentage every single time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. So I wanted to ask you about some of the new things in the book. You mentioned post-COVID. So can you tell us a bit about what you've noticed is different in the post-COVID era related to artificial intelligence? I know you added a workbook as well, so I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, the first edition really was, for me, what I called encoding empathy was the theme of the book. It was like, hey, let's get empathetic in our content strategies. Let's not just go with the trends, right? There's trends, but they go up and down because they're trends. But really, what is long lasting here for your audience? What is the opportunity that we have to embed those moments of loyalty from the customer to the brand through empathetic content, both being empathetic to our customer and then getting them to be empathetic with us as a brand. We are entities. There's people behind that brand. So that was really the gist of the book, introducing that theme. And honestly, I was scared that it wouldn't land. I was like, why would people listen to encoding empathy in my messaging? And then COVID hits, right? And everybody wants to be empathetic because we're all experiencing something catastrophic. And it's, we're all affected in different ways and different layers at the human core level. And this unifies us at some point. We are all going through this. If we got through it, we all got through it barely, right? And so we were being empathetic. And it was fascinating for me in this moment because I had brands coming at me, from left and right, asking me the same question. What do I do? Do I sell? Do I stop? Do I pause all communication? What do we do? Do we talk to people? And I responded with what I was talking about in my book. And I was like, well, do what your customers are telling you that they need right now. They're talking. Your customers are talking. If they're tired, they're telling you they're tired. So respond with that, with the fact that they're tired. Be empathetic to the fact that they're tired. And so that, now in the post-pandemic era, it's no longer selling empathy as a service, but really it's we're being empathetic. We're aware of empathy being a skill set in our communication strategies. Now that we're entering AI and AI is here as a new tool, as a new technology, really taking over a whole lot of our communication operations, if you will. How do we now get to pause and create with our own empathy that we've been skilling up? How do we create moments and spaces to deliver relevant content that appeals to our audiences that are very niche? In many times, in many ways, marketers, communicators, leaders in general, we just want to deliver the message, right? Which is like, hey, we got the message. Here it is. Let's draft it. It's approved. Go, go, go. Ad campaigns, go. Deadlines. It's all about that. But now we're taking some time back. AI is allowing that space for us. And so now we get to play it with all of, be beyond empathy, all of the other human things. Let the robots be robots and let the humans be humans in this sea of consciousness of relevant content that appeals to our very audiences. I'm looking so much, and I've been studying the trends and how brands, I call it, trend cheating. Our brands are cheating on our main audiences with trends that don't appeal to the main audiences. So they're losing space, they're losing market share. So there's an opportunity that I talk about here in the book to pause and to recreate the mission and to reimagine the integrated marketing plan communication under this lens of we've understood collectively as a human force that we must be empathetic toward one another. And now that we've learned that very big lesson, where do we go from here now that the machines are here?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, no replacement for the human touch.
No, not at all.
I know you had mentioned before, like giving your audience what they want, not what you think they need. So what is the best way to listen to the audience? Is it looking at their social media comments? How do you listen to your audience?
It's interesting. Personally, I have been using generative AI for this. I do use social media, but there, again, in social media, you can spend a lot of time, and the time, it is our commodity, as I said before. So I've moved away from, I used to say, yes, listen to the social media, your customers are talking there. So yes, there's value there. But even more, now you can embed AI. For me, for example, when I think about governors, which is part of my niche audience, state and local governors, when I think about what's happening in their field, if I'm creating, let's say, a blog, a story, anything can change from one day to the other. And so by the time my blog is ready to post, right, I've gotten all the approvals, it's drafted, great, all the quotes are good, and we're ready to publish. I don't have an opportunity to really go in and start looking at all the social media to understand if it's going to land perfectly or in the best way. Now I can use Bing search, for example, and I ask it, hey, what are the latest news in state and local government? What are the latest executive orders that just happened? And these happen every day. So now I have a better landscape to understand, how my story is landing and before it lands. And so I have an opportunity again to be empathetic to the environment and to the audience and be more tailored in my content approach. So I have been playing with this tool for a while, since January. I have the privilege of being in Microsoft, who's leading a lot of this generative AI tools. So I have tools to play with. And I do, when people are talking about being scared of using it or the ethics behind it, to me, it's serving more and more, less about writing, which I do play with it for that, but it really helps me on the research side and the insight side. And I will tell you from my experience, AI can absolutely turn information to data. It won't turn data to insights, because I'm the one that brings the insights to the tool. I'm the one who knows my customer, who has the lived experience, who understands all the nuances. It doesn't. It's still being informed. It's still creating its own opinion type of thing. So, but it does enable me to shorten my time by a whole lot when it comes to insight finding and to research.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it's a tool. A lot of people get scared that it's going to replace people's jobs and things like that. But I feel like it might just replace the person that doesn't use it, right? If you get better at it, it's just one more tool in your toolkit to serve your clients.
I mean, think of spell checker, right? I mean, everybody uses spell checker. It's not replacing your content. You're just running it make sure it's optimized, but it doesn't, just because it exists doesn't mean that it's going to write a whole thing for you. And in my experience, it won't. I don't think it will ever get to 100%. Again, because the idea is not that it's going to robotically create a piece of content. The idea is that it's going to give you optimization so that you can tailor it to your audience, and only you know that audience and what it needs. And so it's your job to really translate that into something that is relevant to them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Another thing you mentioned in the book, which I love too, is the importance of building a personal brand. Because a lot of people will be like, hey, well, I don't own a business, so this whole brand storytelling thing maybe doesn't apply to me. So what would you say to the individuals about brand storytelling as a personal brand?
Yeah, that was also something that I was very proud of to be able to include in the second edition, because as I wrote this initial, edition was for communicators and marketers and for big brands, for all kinds of brands, but not really thinking about the impact it does apply to personal brand. And a lot of people would come to me and ask that question, Miri, how have you been able to build your personal brand with such a big brand next to you, which is Microsoft? Like, you're able to do both, right? People recognize you for Microsoft, but also recognize you for you. How have you done that? And I was like, and a lot of people ask me the same questions. I'm like, maybe I should write about that. So I integrated a little bit of that in the book. And there's an opportunity one of the things that I talk about is that we are the brand. Right? All of us are the brand. People want to know Miri from Microsoft, not just Microsoft, but Microsoft was talking about itself. And so there's this curiosity behind the brand, whether you belong to a big corporation or really have a small company, or really you are, we are always the brand. And so there's this opportunity for us to build that personality, our own persona, if you will, in the market, in our own digital presence. So I do talk about leveraging your origin story, mine being coming from Venezuela, all the things, and my own trajectory as a Latina woman in tech. It's very part of my brand. And that to me has been another platform that I've been able to leverage today, where I can have my side hustle and moonlight and then still be at this company. So it's been what I call diversifying my talents, right? I'm able to just plug in different places and really give myself bigger opportunities and platforms with my person, with my brand, serving in different spaces. So I do recommend that people work on this and work on their story. And in the workbook actually enables you to do that.
Oh, nice. And, I love that you lean into your story, because I think that's the very thing that some people shy away from, because they're like, oh, well, I want to fit in, not realizing, hey, you have something very unique because of how you came about where you are today,
Yeah, speaking specifically to our Hispanic community, I actually have a story about that in the book. I talk about how our Hispanic community is, and our Latinx community is, we're very proud people, and we want to always obviously showcase the best of us. And I talk about how in my own family, I didn't know the stories of failure and of hardship in my family, even though I knew they were happening. We just didn't talk about it, right? So it was hard for me to really understand how hard things were, or how the struggles that happened. And I for this generation, for my generation, I understand the responsibility that we have to break away from that to be able to showcase to the next generations that there is hardship, that we go through things, and that's okay. That's part of life. The beauty of that is all the cycles, right? Ups and downs. And it doesn't make us less, it makes us more resilient. It doesn't make us less of a person to be vulnerable in these moments. And so I do believe that these stories, people also think, well, they're ordinary, right? Miri, I didn't go to the moon. Why would people care? We care because we learn from each other. And you don't have to go to the moon for me to learn something from you. Your lived experience is going to teach me something valuable. I'll take the same example I just used about the global pandemic. We all experienced it very differently, even though it's the same event at a global scale. This event's going to go down in the history books, right? Our children's, if we haven't exploded as a planet yet, they will read about this at some point from historians. And I always wonder, what if all of us would have collectively, the minute lockdowns started to happen across the world, would have written our story and explain what was happening to us individually through a year or 2 years of the pandemic. That story is going to look a lot different, right? What we all experience. So I would learn from you from the same event. You will learn from me. And so that is the power of story. And as we go through life, you're learning insights that I would love to know, and your wisdom. And so that sharing really is the power of storytelling in general. It doesn't have to be extraordinary. You are ordinary, living an ordinary life, and that makes it extraordinary. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that is really powerful, because I like that concept of you don't have to have gone to the moon for it to be meaningful.
No,
Awesome.
it's always meaningful. I learn from you, you learn from me, and that's meaningful. That's powerful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So I know that both you and I look at wealth and not just as monetary things, so when we last spoke, you had just launched Be Mindful, Be Happy. So tell us about the origin story behind that, and how do you view wealth yourself to include health and happiness?
Yeah, I had always been very aware of wellness and health in general. So I do live intentionally a healthy life in terms of my exercise, my food, everything I eat, especially being Latina. I love me some arroz con pollo and some plátanos. Arepas, I die. So I had to kind of retrain my system to eat well. But, so I was always keenly aware of wellness. I just didn't put two and two together for a while that we are body, spirit, and soul. And so while I focus on one area of myself, if I'm not really focusing and nurturing the other two, I'm two-thirds dead, And so a lot of us are walking around zombie-like because only one aspect of us, usually the physical aspects, what we worry about. And so when, in 2021, I was diagnosed with a gene mutation called BRCA type 1. And basically, it is a passed down gene mutation on the DNA where I am exposed to several cancers for the reproductive system. So there would be breast cancer, uterus cancer, cervical cancer, all of it. And so a lot of people will choose to be proactive, just like somebody like Angelina Jolie, who also has the gene. And so she went and had a total hysterectomy and a double mastectomy, all of that. And so when that happened to me, when I was diagnosed and I didn't know what was next and, my next steps, I chose to be proactive, and they did find some cancer. So that was a whole other story. But it was like it all came together at once when I was, the way I was feeling, the way my soul was feeling, the way that my physical body was, all of it is one thing. It's one unit. And I needed to understand that more. So I started to learn about it. And it was, to me, under the umbrella of mindfulness. And so I was actually recovering from one of my surgeries. I had 5, and I had a dream. And in this dream, I was owning this company that was about mindfulness. And my LLC, my company is called Mindful Leadership. And one of the things that I love is the sun. So my sign is always the sun. And so I went and I started searching online companies, and I found Be Mindful, Be Happy, and it's mindful and it's got the sun. So I reached out to the owner, the founder, who was a yoga instructor from the UK. And I just blindly, I was like, listen, I'm interested in buying your company. And she was like, and so she's like, listen, I was actually going to sell it this week. And I had everything ready to sell it to somebody else. Yeah. She's like, papers are drawn. We're ready to sign this week. And I got your message. So let's talk. And so we did. And here we are. I bought the company from her. The company was a very small mom and pop shop in the UK. So I brought it to the US. And really what it is, what I've turned it into is a global mindfulness as a service approach. So we have products, yes, we have services, but overall it's this idea of mindful you, mindful life, mindful business. We are all, it's all under the umbrella of wellness. It's a 3-pronged approach to how we do life and business.
Wow, that's amazing. Talk about like serendipity, right? You just had this dream. They happen to have the sun and
all of it, and it was crazy. Yeah, and it was like a Sunday when I had the dream on a Sunday. So I reached out to her on Monday. She's in the UK, and so she was signing papers on Thursday. So it was like 3 days in between before it was just wild.
That is amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So what are some of the things you do now? Like you have workshops and so on?
Yeah. So what I started doing was offering, as I said, mindfulness as a service. So it's kind of this self-mastery approach. It starts with relationships with yourself, with others. You don't have to be on like this crazy awakening path or yogi. It's not about that at all. It really is about mindfulness. How intentional are you being in your core set of values to do business in life? Do you have a set of values? Do you have contracts with yourself and other people? I find it fascinating in my own life where we enter relationships, whether they're business relationships or personal relationships. And those are the biggest contracts we enter without actually contracting. You know what I mean? We contract everything else and we sign and we read, hopefully we read all the pages, except for relationships with ourselves and other people. And that is the demise or the success of our lives, who we do life with, how we do life with, our shadows, understanding all of this and how we affect and influence each other and who we choose in our lives to affect and influence each other. And so this mindfulness approach is about that. It's about, creating awareness and about yourself and about others and how you're doing life and who you're doing life with, and creating those contracts, making contracts with yourself to really live a life that you feel find fulfillment. You talked about wellness, wealth. To me, that is wealth. It's this approach of enriching opportunities and enriching friendships and enriching business. I can tell you that with this approach, every person that has been a partner in my business or has wanted to partner in my business, it's people that I already trust because they've already come into my circle. So I don't have to vet them. I know them, and these are quality people. And so there's it's almost like a magic that happens when you intend to drive business and life relationships first, and then kind of the circle happens on its own. It's very powerful.
Yeah, no, that is very powerful. And I could see that being applied to like so many areas of your life. I love how you talk about being intentional.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times we don't really think through maybe even the desired outcome of something or the why behind it, right? And we're kind of just going through the motions, like reacting to life, right?
We're reactive, and then we wonder where our energy went. We're being depleted left and right from our own relationships, our own people around us, our own network, and we don't understand it. So there's also that part of understanding yourself and what energizes or doesn't, or who energizes you or doesn't, and why you're entering a relationship that may not energize you, that could be toxic. I mean, there's so many different things, partnerships, business. I work in a corporation. I mean, it's 140,000, 70,000 employees, so many people and so many people that I get to do life with when I'm at Microsoft, but I get to also create my own bubble and parameters and choose who is going to influence me versus just everybody. And so that is part of that energy that you get to build wellness on your own mental health, really.
Yeah, you get to protect your peace.
100%.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I know that you're also very giving in terms of your time and expertise to mentees, including in Africa. Can you tell us about, the importance of paying it forward for you and giving back?
Yeah, I first of all, I love the continent of Africa and all the countries I've been to. I've been there. I've done 4 tours, and each time it's weird. I feel like I'm home. It's a weird feeling. It's from the first time I went to Swaziland, was the first country I went to, and I stepped out of the plane and I was like, wow, it feels like home. So it was really interesting for me. And I love every country I've been to and every person that I've met there. For me, giving back is, for those mentees, is really enabling people and giving, helping them that create that awareness, again, that self-empowerment that they have, especially in these countries where, the systems or the mechanisms are different. And so we talk a lot in American ways of, you can do this, right? But it's a lot different to say that in other countries. And I come from similar background. And, I lived in a shack. I lived in the slums of Caracas. I didn't come from the high end parts of Venezuela. So I get it. And so for me, understanding the limitations or the situations that, the infrastructure can offer, how can you still inspire someone? How can you still build a business, social enterprises that they're wanting to build? For me, it's training them and giving them basically volunteering my skill sets as much as I can to inspire and empower them in their own space. And so I have done, I've been part of organizations like YALI, which is Young Leaders of Africa. And so they have a presence in many countries in Africa. I also do here in Miami Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, which is a global organization. And so anything from one-on-one coaching to one-to-many trainings on leveraging the power of storytelling, your personal brand. These people, women usually are women doing the social enterprises. It's fascinating because they build things, they build products, and then they sell them. And that money goes back to their village, not even to them, to go build a school. So it's so wonderful for me to even be a part of something so big beyond myself to a community, somewhere in the world. And so it just fills my heart. And for me, it's part of that give back. It's part of that enrichment. I have built skill sets that I can give back to people. And I'm so honored to be able to do that. So,
yeah, that's so important. And I think even as we grow, there's still a lot of benefit in continuing to both be a mentor and a mentee.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I get reverse mentoring all the time, and they're not shy about it. They're like, Miri, you're off brand, pick yourself up. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Very refreshing perspective.
Yeah, they slap me in the face sometimes. I'm like, okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
That's funny.
It keeps me honest. It keeps me honest for sure. No, there is absolutely. I learn all the time, not only the reverse mentoring, but, they teach me so much, and they keep me aware. A lot of times, again, we come with our biases, we come with our lived experiences. And sometimes I'm literally like unaware, and they're like, hey, Miri, let me bring you back to reality. I'm like, okay, thanks. So I love that. I love that I can keep, stay honest to the brand.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. Cause it's like, there's always something to learn, no matter how much experience we've had, this if you keep your mind open.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes.
So what is next for Miri? What will we be talking about next year?
Yes, that's a great question. I just teased on Instagram a new novel that I'm writing. Wow. Yeah, it's an autobiographical novel. So it will be based on my life, but it's not a character. I'm not the same character. So the character is different. And of course, we're going to fictionalize a lot of events. But I'm really excited about this. The reason I am excited about it is because it's truly the culmination of what I call the deconstruction of my life, and then how it came together in the end. And so all of the things that you're listening to, all the empathy work that I've done, the skill sets, I'm not a natural empath, by the way, so I had to learn to be one. All of the cultural things from a Hispanic background, we teased about me not becoming a pilot. That was hurtful, right? That was something that I wanted to be. And then we just don't, because we don't do that because we're Venezuelan. And I'm like, oh, really? So there's always that what if. So there's so many nuances to culture, religion, society, all the things that influence us in the most noble ways, but we have to almost look at them and go, do they serve me today? Are they, am I still here, or do I need to step up and divorce those ideals and create something new for myself and then a new generation? So this novel is, it's fascinating. It's in the works for me, and I'm excited for it. So hopefully we'll be talking about that next year.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, then you'll be like breaking, another On My Way to Wealth history. Like, hey, you're coming for the third time now. The first guest to do that.
Yeah, we'll be talking about it for sure. It's interesting. I've shared only a little bit of snippets to people, some key people, and most of them have said this is a Netflix show already. And I'm like, holy crap! So,
look at that! Wow.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a thing. We'll be talking about. That's
amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, because last time you had just launched Be Mindful, Be Happy. Now the novel. So I feel honored to be on the the early stages of something.
That's so true. And, also you mentioned Be Mindful, Be Happy. We're definitely, I was undergoing surgeries in the last 2 years. So I did buy Be Mindful, Be Happy, and I was kind of maintaining it and growing it little by little, not aggressively, just because I was going through my own processes. And obviously I didn't have all the time. But, now I'm done. I just had my last surgery, which was the second part of my breast reconstruction 3 weeks ago. So,
wow.
So I'm on the mend. And so definitely going full force to take Be Mindful, Be Happy to the next level. For all of you listening, this is going to be a community-based, very exclusive community-based service where we're going to offer, very, very exclusive content. And it's not going to be pre-recorded. It'll be live. So you get to meet us. You get to meet the experts live. We'll have events. So I'm really excited about what's next for Be Mindful, Be Happy in its own space, and what it's going to become for people, and especially for women in the Hispanic community.
That's amazing. Yeah, we're going to share all the links in the show notes. But for those listening and watching, where do we find you and Be Mindful, Be Happy online?
Yeah, so mirirod.com, you'll find me there. That's also my alias. So at Miri Rod, find me on social channels. And then Be Mindful, Be Happy is BeMindful-BeHappy.com. And then Be Mindful, Be Happy spelled out on Instagram. So read about how, I became the owner and why and how that, all the details around that and where we're going next, because I'm really excited. We're going to have some really good services. This is for people who, again, it's not that you're going on an awakening journey or becoming a yogi. It's none of that. It really is that for people that are understanding the value of your time, your energy, and how do you approach those two very hot commodities in today's world to really drive your business and your relationships successfully with intention. So getting really intentional about your business and your life.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's amazing. I mean, there's such a recipe for success right there.
Yeah, that is well. Because in the end, money comes and goes, but time does not come back and your energy doesn't either. So those are two.
Absolutely. I was just this morning listening to a guy that has a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he was saying that the thing that brings him the most joy are free.
Yeah.
And he was like, it was just spending time with family, going surfing with his friends. Like,
yeah. And for that, you need time and health, by the way.
Yeah.
For you to be able to spend time with family, you need the time and you need to be healthy for that. And a lot of people will achieve the monetary, threshold and the goal. And then they have the family's gone and they're unhealthy. So what do we do here?
Yeah. What do we do? Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple of quick rapid fire fun questions.
Okay, let's go.
First one is your favorite Latin cuisine.
Oh, geez. Puerto Rican. I'm selling out on my culture. My husband's Puerto Rican. I love me some really good arroz con gandules, lechon, asado, and I love the mofongo. So that is
yes.
Oh my God, I got it. Well, Dominicans also have.
Let me tell you, yes. I was
know.
just in Dominican Republic and I had a camarofongo, so it's shrimp.
But they put the shrimp on the top with the sauce.
That was the best.
I have had that. So mofongo, both Puerto Rican and Dominican, I agree. It's great. Caribbean food in general is delicious, but the Puerto Rican and Dominican is delicious. So that is, I don't eat that a lot. I usually eat it like for Christmas or Thanksgiving. So it's like in my mind, I'm like, it's coming.
Right.
It's like, I'm counting down the months.
I know.
Yeah, it's
right
delicious.
around the corner.
I love it. And of course, being Venezuelan, I do love arepas. I don't eat it as much, but it's home cooked meals for me. It represents my childhood. We ate arepas every day for breakfast and sometimes all three meals because we were poor. So arepas it was. So yeah, I enjoy a good arepa.
Awesome. Thank you. What about favorite música or artist?
I love salsa. I do love salsa. And I like the old, what we call the salsa clásica romántica, like the 90s. And I actually also love Maná. So the artist for me is Maná, even though it's rock. But I love how diverse they are. And they're still good. I actually just saw them in Miami. They were here
Oh, nice.
A couple months ago in April. We had great seats. I love them. They're still around. They're like,
that's amazing.
I know they're great and they still deliver a great show. So I like the old 90s music, Latin music, both salsa, rock.
Jerry Rivera, like type stuff, like
Jerry Rivera, absolutely. Jerry Rivera, Eddie Santiago, all those guys. I love that.
That's what I grew up with too. Yeah.
Yeah. Grupo Nietzsche is one of my absolute favorites. Grupo Nietzsche, I can play a whole, I can sing to every song of Grupo Nietzsche. I can tell you that.
Nice.
And then my favorite artist in the genre, it is actually Dominican, Juan Luis Guerra. I mean, I love.
Oh, yeah.
This man is a poet. I mean, the way he has with words, and he's just fabulous. I find him fascinating. I've never seen him live, so I owe that to myself. I gotta see him.
And he's pretty tall too. So he's 6 foot something.
He's super tall, but he's a great musician. He's a great artist overall, and he delivers to. I think he feels his music in a way that. It comes out of him and toward the people, and it's just this emotional transaction that people have with him, and I love it.
Yeah, I grew up listening to him too. Love it. Thank you so much. Well, final question is, you are in an elevator with a complete stranger. They don't know your name. They don't know your handle on Twitter or Instagram, but they ask you in that short elevator ride, what are some things that you've learned throughout your life that you would like to just pass on? Could be anything that you just like to share.
Give me a life advice, piece of life advice.
Yeah.
Okay, good question. Yeah. So summarizing everything we just talked about, right? Your time and your energy are valuable. Protect it, procure it, and preserve it. And to do all that, you have to learn yourself, and you have to like yourself, and you have to love yourself. Those are 3 things that are key to preserving and protecting and procuring your energy and your time.
Love it. That's a mic drop right there. That's a wrap. Well, thank you so much, Miri. This has been amazing, as expected. I really appreciate
it's an honor.
you.
I hope I'm back next year for the unveiling of my novel.
Your novel and your Netflix show.
Yes, I'm affirming it. It's happening. So it's in the universe already.
Yeah, don't forget about the little people.
Oh, please. You'll be on that premiere for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You have a great rest of your weekend and happy travels as well.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.